Hi guys, welcome back to another Animal Adventures with Jordan. Today we are featuring another bovine species of our park, which is the Tibetan yaks. We have a pair of females, Nikki and Patty, Knick-Knack Patty Yak, and a young bull. These two girls here are about 4 some odd years old, and our young male back here is about 2 years old. Now before we get into adaptations and anatomy, we're going to talk quickly about conservation. Now of course we have the wild yak and then the domestic yak. What we have here are the domestic yaks, a little bit smaller than their wild counterparts. Now the wild yaks inhabit the Himalayan regions of Asia and are actually classified as vulnerable. There's only about 10,000 of them left in the wild. Now they were actually endangered until about 1996 when they were brought down just a little bit due to conservation efforts in India and China, where they're now protected and commonly bred in preserves and reserve parks. So now talking about our yaks, okay, our domestics are a little bit smaller. Our girls here are going to stand about 4 feet at the shoulder and are going to weigh about 500, maybe 600 pounds. Where our bull in the back will also attain about 4 to 5 feet at shoulder height and will get up to about 700 to 1,200 pounds. Now mind you, the wild yaks can get much larger with bulls going up to about 18 some hundred pounds. Now another neat thing about our girls and our guys here, you can notice their horns. Now these horns here on our girls are quite large, but the males get actually bigger. Our girls only go to about 2 to 3 feet in length, and they actually curl out and up. Our males, on the other hand, can go all the way to about 4 feet long and actually curl up and go forward. And we're going to talk about why that is here in a few minutes. Talking about the body in general, we can notice that they have a very, very thick furry coat, and that's because of that harsh, cold environment and high altitude that they come from. That coat obviously protects them, and uniquely enough, the scrotum of males and even the udders of females are fully furred to ensure that nothing is exposed to those cold winds. Now you'll notice here, our tail is very unique to the yak, unlike other bovine species. It's almost horse-like in its appearance, very long and drawn out, versus our cows generally that have a small, thin tail with a tuft of hair at the bottom. Now, their colors, our domestic yaks, are going to be a variety of different colors: black, black and white, even brown, silver, a little bit of gray in color, where your wilds are much more generic, much more black in their coloring. Now our young bulls, or excuse me, our young calves that are produced are actually more brown in coloring and take on that black coloring as they do get older. Now talking about some of the adaptations that you can't see on them is internal. Their lungs and their hearts are quite large compared to other bovine species, and that's because of those high altitudes in which they live. It allows them to do more with that limited air resource up there, and that big heart allows them to pump more of that oxygen through that blood to make sure it's not deprived. Now, other neat things about our yaks is obviously that they're a domestic species now, a beast of burden in essence. In the Himalayan regions, the people will use them as a pack animal to transfer goods from village to village. They can also have their coat used. They can also have milk be milked, and actually that milk is turned into a very rich butter. Now, quite often people talk about milk of the yak being pink in color. Well, it's kind of true, but not all the time. What happens is when we do produce a calf, what happens is that first amount of milk mom produces actually has a little bit of blood in it, which it's a very high protein concentrated milk. And when those babies drink that, it really gets them a jump start, because our calves, when born, are on their feet within 10 minutes. That's how quickly they're up and moving around. That big burst of protein gets them moving, and as they continue to nurse and time goes on, that milk goes back to a normal white coloring that we're used to seeing. Now talking about our reproduction of our yaks, a gestation period is anywhere from about 250 to about 270 some odd days. Now the herd structure, our females and young calves actually stay together, and calves will stay with mom for about 1 year time. Our bulls, kind of like our giraffe bulls, are nomadic bachelors that kind of group off on their own. Once the females start coming into season, our males go into rut, and they actually start to display dominance acts. Now what does that mean? They're going to stomp their feet, they're going to grunt at one another, and they will engage each other with those horns. That's why they're pointed forward, to tussle back and forth to show who the victor is that moves on and does get to spread his seed. Now I mentioned grunting only because the yak is one of our bovine species that actually does not have the ability to move. They have to grunt, much like our bison, unlike a lot of the other bovines that they have in that family group. Now, one other neat thing about them is where they live in those higher altitudes, food is scarce, all right? So what they do is that their body is much more efficient than a lot of our domestic bovine. For example, Our yak eat about 1/3 of what a dairy cow would eat in a day. Their body is much more efficient in processing those food items, deriving what they need, and expending as few calories as possible. Now, one more neat fact about these guys is that their manure and their body is actually odorless. All right, when maintained in proper spaces, they really don't have a smell to them. And one more neat thing about their manure is that in the Himalayan regions, there's not wood to burn for fuel. So what they will actually do is take that dried out manure or dung and use that as a fuel source to start and burn fire. So a neat little fact there too. So on that note, we're going to wrap up this Animal Adventures with Jordan. Tune in again on Thursday for another session. What animal will it be? We don't know just yet.